Welcome to the deep dive, where we try to, well, cut through the noise and get to what really matters. It feels like we're living in this weird paradox, right? We've got infinite information, just endless streams of it. But our attention, it feels like it's shattered into a million pieces. We're constantly pinged, constantly stimulated, bouncing around.
Yeah,
But often I think feeling kind of disconnected from what we actually care about.
that's a really good way to put it. It's like every app, every website, they're all fighting for just tiny slivers of our awareness.
Yeah.
And we've sort of gotten used to this scattered way of being. We just jump from one thing to the next without really feeling grounded.
When we don't even notice half the time.
Exactly. We don't realize we're not actively choosing it, and we're definitely not fighting it much either.
So the big question is, how do we get that attention back? How do we live with a bit more, intention? That's what this deep dive is all about. We're looking into the power of focus, how to maintain attention and perseverance facing challenges and obstacles by Pedro Aguero Vallejo. Our mission here is to pull out the key ideas, the practical stuff, to help you, the listener, hopefully regain some control and live more purposefully.
And it's not about perfection, right? It's more about a daily practice, something transformative you build over time.
Right. So Aguirre Vallejo starts with this idea of focus as an invisible compass. What does he mean by that?
Well, he defines focus as something much deeper than just paying attention. It's the overall direction, the why behind what we do. It's present in every choice, guiding us.
I like that, invisible compass. Because we do mix up these terms, don't we? Attention, concentration, focus. They sort of blur together.
They really do. But Aguero Vallejo makes some important distinctions. Think of attention first. It's like your mind's quick reaction system.
Like a flashlight beam.
Exactly. A flashlight scanning a dark room, landing on whatever catches its interest for a moment, like the classic cocktail party effect. You hear your name across a noisy room, and bam, your attention snaps to it.
Okay, so it's quick, often involuntary.
Fleeting, yeah. Easily grabbed by a notification or just a random thought popping into your head.
So that's attention. Then what about concentration?
Concentration is when you consciously decide to dedicate your mental energy to one thing for a sustained period.
Like really digging into a book or working on a tough problem.
Precisely. You're actively blocking out distractions. It's like a muscle, you can train it, but it also gets tired.
Okay, so attention is the flashlight, concentration is holding the beam steady.
Yeah?
Where does focus fit in?
Focus, in this view, is the bigger picture. It's the why. It connects those moments of attention and concentration to your overall purpose, your main goals in life.
Ah, I see. So you could be really concentrated on something, but if it doesn't align with your bigger why, you might lack true focus.
Exactly. You could be super attentive to emails all day, highly concentrated on answering each one, but if your main goal is, say, writing a novel, you're not truly focused on what matters most to you. Focus is that guiding direction.
Okay, that makes sense. But if focus is so important, why does it feel so unnatural sometimes? Why are we so easily distracted?
Well, this is fascinating. Evolutionarily, our brains aren't really wired for deep, sustained focus.
Really?
Yeah, think about our ancestors. Survival depended on being hyper aware of changes in the environment. That rustle in the bushes could be danger, right?
So distraction was actually a survival skill.
Absolutely. Constant vigilance, scanning for novelty, that was the advantage. Sitting still and focusing on one thing for hours, that could get you eaten. Distraction kept you alert.
Wow. And now that same wiring makes us super vulnerable to all the pings and notifications and ads in the digital world.
Precisely. Those digital signals hijack that ancient alert system. Every time we react, we're actually reinforcing that pattern, training ourselves to be distracted.
So our modern world demands one thing: deep work, strategy, creativity. But our biology is kind of pulling us in the opposite direction.
It is. The source uses the analogy of asking a fish to climb a tree. It's not what the brain was originally designed for. We have to consciously work against that grain.
Okay, but here's something really powerful, Aguero Vallejo argues. Focus actually outweighs talent in the long run. How does that work if focus isn't natural?
It's a great question. Talent gives you a head start, no doubt. But focus, sustained over time, is what he calls the great equalizer.
You mean like deliberate practice, that idea from Anders Ericsson?
Exactly that. It's not just repetition, but intentional repetition. Constantly adjusting, staying engaged, pushing yourself slightly. That builds resilience.
Where someone with raw talent but no focus might get bored easily or give up when things get tough.
That's the idea. They might rely on the initial ease and lack the grit that comes from consistently showing up and doing the work, especially for long-term goals. Focus builds that inner strength.
So it's less about innate genius and more about the discipline to keep going day after day.
That's the core message. Focus builds this cumulative power, this resilience that talent alone often doesn't provide.
Okay, so our brains are wired for distraction, and modern life piles on the triggers. What are some of the biggest hidden traps, the saboteurs of our attention, that Aguero Vallejo points out? Let's start with multitasking. Feels like a superpower sometimes, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's often worn like a badge of honor. Look how much I can juggle.
But the source calls it a self-deception.
It really is. Our brains don't actually multitask. What we're doing is switching tasks very rapidly, context switching.
And that switching has a cost.
A huge cost. Every switch burns mental energy, takes time, and fragments your attention. You might feel productive because you're busy, but you end up mentally drained, often with a bunch of half-finished things.
And it can even bleed into relationships, right? Like glancing at your phone while someone's talking.
Definitely. It sends a message, doesn't it? And sometimes, like you hinted at earlier, we even use multitasking to avoid uncomfortable feelings, like the difficulty of deep work. It becomes an escape.
An emotional escape, not just a productivity myth. Okay, what's next? Digital dopamine. Sounds ominous.
It kind of is. The digital world is brilliant at hacking our brain's reward system. Every notification, every little update gives us a tiny hit of dopamine.
That pleasure chemical.
Exactly. So our brains get trained to crave these constant, easy rewards. Immediate gratification becomes the norm.
Which makes harder, slower things like reading a book or thinking deeply feel boring.
Tedious, yeah. Why wait for the satisfaction of finishing a chapter when you can get a quick hit right now from checking social media?
And this constant stimulation. Aguero Vallejo says it blurs the line between important and trivial.
It does. Everything gives a little jolt of pleasure, so it all starts to feel equally important in the moment, even if it's totally irrelevant to our real goals. He suggests we almost need to detox our reward system.
Like a digital detox.
Sort of, but more behavioral. Things like turning off notifications, having screen-free times, even embracing a bit of boredom to let our brains rediscover the pleasure in activities that require more sustained effort.
Retraining ourselves to appreciate depth again. Makes sense. Okay, beyond the external digital stuff, what about internal saboteurs? The source mentions anxiety, fear, uncertainty.
Yeah, these are huge internal drains on focus. Anxiety is described as living in an excess of the future.
Worrying about what might happen.
Exactly. Your mind is constantly jumping ahead, projecting worries, so you're never fully present. Your attention is fractured.
And fear.
Fear is more concrete. It often shows up as procrastination, right? Fear of failure, fear of judgment. It makes your mind focus on protection instead of progress.
And uncertainty. How does that sabotage focus?
When things feel unclear, unstructured, our minds tend to stay in this kind of low-level alert mode. It's draining cognitive resources without you even realizing it. That's why routines, or as he calls them, micro-certainties, can be so helpful. They provide structure.
Okay, and one more common one. The classic, I don't have time.
Ah, yes, we all say it.
But the source really challenges that, calls it self-justification.
It does. It suggests that I don't have time is often a shield protecting us from uncomfortable truths. Maybe we're scared to start. Maybe we don't really prioritize that dream. Maybe we just prefer the comfort of distraction.
It forces you to look at the hidden choices, like the hours on social media versus the minutes on that personal project.
Right. The punchline is powerful. Time isn't found. It's created through our choices. We decide what gets our attention.
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into the next big idea. Focus isn't about resisting, it's about choosing. Let's unpack this. Focusing isn't about brute force, but about firm choices.
Exactly. Thinking of it as a constant battle against distractions is exhausting. You'll burn out.
Because resistance takes energy.
A lot of energy. But framing it as a choice is empowering. You're not fighting against temptations. You're choosing for something specific. You acknowledge the distraction might be there, but you choose not to follow it.
And that firmness comes from knowing your why, right? Knowing why this particular thing deserves your attention right now.
Precisely. Clarity fuels the choice.
This also connects to the power of saying no, which is hard for a lot of us.
It really is. But Aguero Vallejo points out that every time we say a lukewarm yes to something that doesn't really align, we're silently saying no to something that does matter.
That's a tough truth. So no isn't just negative, it's protective.
It's an act of protecting your priorities, a declaration of intent, as he puts it. It guards your path. And often, when boundaries are set clearly and respectfully, people understand. It reflects your own internal clarity.
Okay, so to help make these choices and set these boundaries, the source talks about setting up mental filters like criteria for decisions.
Right. Think of them as guideposts to quickly sort the essential from the non-essential. They reduce that constant decision fatigue.
Can you give some examples of these filters?
Sure, a big one is, does this decision bring me closer to or further away from what I value most right now? Another good one, especially for the digital age. Does this activity produce a lasting result or just momentary gratification?
Ooh, that's a good one. Cuts right through the dopamine hits.
Exactly. Or asking, does this expand me or consume me emotionally? Or even, is this aligned with the person I want to become?
Using these filters regularly helps shift from being reactive to being intentional.
Right. That's the goal. You start making choices based on your core values, not just whatever pops up.
This sounds related to the urgent versus important trap you mentioned earlier. That feels like a constant battle.
It's a silent killer of deep work. The urgent stuff screams for attention, emails, notifications, someone at your door. It feels pressing.
But the important stuff,
That often whispers. It requires thought, planning, sustained effort like strategic thinking, creative projects, relationship building. It rarely demands immediate action, so it gets pushed aside.
the Eisenhower matrix idea helps visualize this, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Urgent, not. Urgent versus important, not important.
Yes. It highlights how much time we can spend on urgent but unimportant tasks, feeling busy but not actually moving towards our real goals. We live in reactive mode.
So the solution is to proactively schedule the important stuff. Treat it like an appointment.
Exactly. Give it space on your calendar, protect that time, make it a commitment, not just a vague intention.
Okay, so we need to choose, filter, and prioritize.
Mm.
But willpower alone won't cut it, right? The source stresses the need for structure.
Right. Willpower is finite, like a battery that drains. Structure systems, habits, and environment is what makes focus sustainable over the long haul.
Let's break that down. What are systems in this context?
Systems are processes you set up to reduce the need for constant decision making. Things like time blocking, having a specific workflow for projects, or doing a weekly review. They create predictability and reduce friction.
And habits.
Habits are those small automatic actions you build through repetition, like spending the first 10 minutes of your workday planning or putting your phone away during dinner. Consistency over intensity is key here.
Small bricks build a big wall.
Exactly. And then there's the environment, both physical and digital.
Yeah, you mentioned a messy desk draining energy. A clean space signals focus time.
It reduces visual clutter and distractions. Same goes for your digital space, a clean desktop, turning off notifications, maybe using website blockers. You're consciously designing your surroundings to support focus.
And the source even mentions our emotional environment, the people around us.
Yes, the energy and expectations of people we interact with definitely play a role.
So how do we put this structure into practice day to day? The source talks about focus rituals.
These are intentional routines that signal to your brain, okay, it's time to focus now. He suggests rituals for before, during, and after a focused work session.
Like an entrance ritual.
Yeah, before you start. Clearing your workspace, maybe getting a glass of water, silencing notifications, and clearly stating your intention for the next block of time. For the next 45 minutes, I will write the introduction.
Getting your mind and space ready. What about during the task? Sustainability rituals.
Things like the Pomodoro technique, working in focused bursts, say 25 or 50 minutes, then taking a short break. Using a timer can help. Also, having a way to handle internal interruptions, like keeping a notepad to jot down distracting thoughts to deal with later.
Parking lot for random ideas. Good one. And then an exit ritual.
Right. Consciously closing the loop. Maybe reviewing what you accomplished, noting the next step for tomorrow, or even just taking a moment of quiet to transition out of work mode. It prevents tasks from lingering mentally.
Okay, this is all great for setting up focus. But life happens. Obstacles, setbacks. How does perseverance fit in? Here's where it gets really interesting. It's not the grand gestures, but the daily, quiet decisions.
Exactly. Aguirre Vallejo redefines perseverance. It's not just gritting your teeth and pushing through blindly. It's persisting with meaning, fueled by that clear why we talked about, especially when the initial excitement fades.
He gives examples, right, like Laura the writer.
Yes, the single mom who committed to just 30 minutes of writing each day. It wasn't heroic, but that consistent small choice added up, and she published her book. Or Tomas the student, Marcos the entrepreneur. It's the accumulation of small, intentional acts.
So when those inevitable obstacles hit the storms, as the source calls them, what's the advice?
Lower expectations temporarily. But don't silence your core purpose. Figure out what's truly essential right now versus what's just an accessory you can let go of for a bit. And redefine success. Maybe success today isn't finishing the project, but simply showing up, being present, making the decision to return to the work.
That's powerful. Shifting focus from outcomes to actions. And how about failure? How do we handle that without derailing completely?
Frame failures as data, not destiny. Information to learn from. Process the emotions, sure, but then step back and analyze objectively what happened and what you can do differently.
And resilience.
Resilience here is like flexible strength. It's the
Yeah.
ability to bounce back, to return to your path quickly and without guilt after a setback. Recognizing progress isn't a straight line.
Okay, so practically, when we do fall off track, when we have a slump, what are the steps to get back?
First, interrupt the self-judgment. It's counterproductive. Reconnect with your original why. Why did you start this in the first place?
Remind yourself of the purpose.
Exactly. Then scale back. Don't try to jump back in at 100%. Start with small, achievable, sustainable steps. Build momentum again.
Like a mini reset.
Yeah, maybe even create a small reset ritual, a symbolic action that marks your return. Tidy your desk, go for a walk, review your goals, and crucially, manage your environment again to support you. And remember, any new slip-ups are just pauses, not defeats.
This is shifting focus from just a skill to something deeper, like part of your identity.
That's a key point later in the source. True, lasting change happens when focus becomes part of who you are.
So instead of I'm trying to focus, it's asking, what would a focused person do right now?
Exactly. It's about shifting your internal narrative. Instead of I'm so distractible, maybe it's I'm learning to hold my attention. Small shifts in language shape identity.
And this identity is strengthened by congruence, making sure our values, decisions, and actions all line up.
Yes. When what you value, say creativity or health or contribution, is reflected in how you spend your time and make your choices, there's an internal alignment.
Oh.
Focus feels less like a chore and more like an expression of who you are.
It creates internal order, reduces that mental noise.
And that leads towards inner peace. Not because problems disappear, but because you feel grounded in your choices, present in your life. Focus, seen this way, isn't restrictive, it's liberating. It frees you from the tyranny of the urgent and the noise.
But there's a huge modern challenge to this inner alignment, the age of constant comparison.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is how looking outward, constantly comparing ourselves, disconnects us from our own essential path.
Social media is a big driver here, isn't it?
For sure, it fosters this silent competition. We end up comparing our messy, behind-the-scenes reality, our workshop, to everyone else's polished highlight reel of their showcase.
Which makes us feel inadequate, impatient,
Yeah,
maybe even abandon our own projects because they don't look as good yet.
precisely. It breeds impatience and mental exhaustion. The antidote, Aguirre Vallejo suggests, is consciously refocusing inward, setting boundaries on how much external stimuli you consume, and deliberately defining success on your own terms, based on your values, not likes or external validation.
Choosing your own metrics, that feels radical today.
It kind of is.
Okay, so focus is internal. It's about identity, but it doesn't have to be lonely, right? The source talks about a collective aspect, shared focus circles.
Yes, focus isn't just an individual battle. Our human environment matters immensely. The people around us, their habits, their expectations, even unintentional distractions, they all impact us.
So we need to have conversations about this.
Definitely. Nourishing conversations, as the source calls them. Communicating our needs and boundaries clearly, without blame or guilt. Saying something like, hey, between 7 and 8 is my writing time, but I'm all yours after that. It helps sync your inner world with your relationships.
And sometimes it might mean recognizing relationships that consistently drain or disperse our energy.
It might. It could mean redefining the role or space those ties have in your life if they consistently pull you away from what matters most.
So what do these shared focus circles look like? How do we build them?
It's about intentionally creating networks, maybe just 1 or 2 people, maybe a small group, where there's mutual respect for focus, shared accountability, and genuine support.
Like a mastermind group, but specifically for focus and perseverance.
Sort of. Imagine meeting regularly, sharing your focus intentions for the week, reporting back honestly on progress and struggles, and offering encouragement. It creates a safe space to be ambitious, to stumble, and to get back up, knowing you're not alone.
It turns focus from a solitary struggle into a shared journey. I like that.
It makes it much more sustainable.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive has covered a lot of ground. From understanding the nuances of attention and concentration to the evolutionary reasons focus is hard, the modern saboteurs, the power of choice, building systems perseverance.
And ultimately, seeing focus as part of our identity and even a shared practice.
It's clear focus isn't some magic trick or something you're just born with. It really is a daily decision, isn't it? That invisible compass guiding us. And maybe most importantly, it's a practice of returning again and again without beating ourselves up.
Remembering what matters, recommitting, renewing that intention, especially when things get noisy or you feel lost, that's the core of it.
So as we wrap up, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Perhaps the biggest takeaway isn't about achieving perfect, uninterrupted focus. Maybe the real win, the real power, lies in the simple, quiet dignity of trying again.
Of choosing again.
Yeah, choosing again and remembering always what truly matters to you. Taking each step with a bit more intention, a bit more clarity, and knowing that if you get scattered tomorrow, which, let's be honest, we all do, it's okay.
Don't judge, just come back.
Just return. Return to the essentials. Return to what you chose. Return to yourself. That's where the real power of focus always is.